Hey guys, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Today we're making a very highly requested cake, which is a marble cake. And I know a lot of you are always asking me if you can replace butter with oil. So this is a completely butter-free recipe, and you can see how super soft this cake is without butter. It is made completely with oil and another secret ingredient, which I'm going to share in the video. So keep on watching. And the beauty of this cake is it comes together in a bowl without any sort of a machinery. Just whisk in a bowl and you are good. And this is how it looks even after a week. I had put it in a box, and I also added some ganache on top. If you want to do that, check out my ganache recipe. But for now, we're going to get started with the cake. But before that, please do consider subscribing to my channel and give this video a big thumbs up if you like my content. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm taking some chocolate. I would highly recommend using chocolate and not cocoa powder because it's going to make the chocolate part of your cake super dense. So I'm melting it in a microwave. I had about 1/3 cup of chocolate chips, and I melted it in 10 to 15 seconds first. And you want it to be not hot, so you want it to come to room temperature but still in a melted form, because you don't want to ruin your batter. The hot chocolate is gonna mess up with the batter when we add to it later. So now I have a loaf pan here. You can use a round cake pan. If you're using a round cake pan, I would recommend using an 8 or a 9 inch. I will put the dimensions for this pan in the description box below. So I oiled it and I've put a piece of parchment paper on top so that my cake does not stick. And now as usual, I recommend using a weighing scale, but if you don't have a weighing scale, I'm gonna have the measurements in both cups and grams in the description box. So I took 3 eggs, all of them were at room temperature, and to that I'm adding 1 cup of sugar, which is about 200 grams. So 3 eggs without the shell were roughly 150 grams. So I used large eggs. If you have small or medium sized and you have a weighing scale, you can see how much eggs you need. And now all you have to do is mix it a little bit till it's all combined. You don't have to whip it. Just a little stirring is all it needs. And to that, I'm going to add some oil, about half a cup of oil, and just any flavorless oil. Don't use strong flavored oils like olive oil. I always go with canola because that's the best option when baking. And now I'm adding some vanilla. Try to use good quality vanilla. I'm using pure vanilla extract here, about 1 teaspoon of that. And now comes the superstar, the magic ingredient. I'm going to add 3/4 cups of full fat yogurt into this. Do not go with the low fat version. It doesn't taste very good. And if you don't have yogurt, you can replace it with sour cream. Sour cream makes this absolutely amazing. So either or, you can use sour cream and full fat yogurt, and try to use a thicker kind of a yogurt, which is not super liquidy, because then the batter is not going to have the same consistency. So mix that all in really well, so that until you don't have any clumps remaining of maybe unmixed oil or unmixed yogurt. Now we are going to add our dry ingredients. For that, you need some flour. I'm gonna sieve it out of this. And if you want, you can do this in a separate bowl. You can use 2 bowls, mix your dry ingredients in one and your wet ingredients in the other, and just mix them up. But just for the ease, I am gonna do it in the same bowl. So sieve out the flour that I'm adding. Teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of baking soda and about half a teaspoon of salt. Whisk it in until it's all uniform. Don't overdo it, because then your cake tends to get chewy. And if you think your cakes turn out chewy or hard generally, then I would recommend doing it in 2 separate bowls and then just mixing the dry ingredients and just fold them until it's all incorporated. Now I'm adding half of my batter in my pan, which is going to be the vanilla part of the marble cake, and to the rest half of the batter I'm gonna put in my melted chocolate. You can also do the ratio that you prefer. If you want more vanilla, you can have more vanilla part and lesser chocolate. I typically like to do half and half, or sometimes sometimes more of the chocolate part and less of the vanilla part. And that's what I'm actually doing here. I have about 1/3 of the vanilla and about 2/3 of the chocolate part. And make sure that it's completely mixed, because if your chocolate part has any streaks in it, it's going to show in the baked version, and then your marble is not going to be as defined. So once you have done that, add it on top and then you swirl it around. Everybody has their own way of adding a marble or a swirl. This is what I like to do. I go horizontal and vertical so that there is a very prominent and defined marble in there. And then all you have to do is bake it. You're going to bake it at 350 degrees, and your oven is the time that you're gonna need is gonna differ. So for me, it takes about 40 to 42 minutes. So anywhere between 35 to 45 minutes is what is gonna take for this cake to be ready. And also make sure to clean the edges of the cake, because then you start getting that burnt smell from the edges that at the corner, because that's the part that cooks first. So bake it for the desired amount of time, or the required amount of time, and just take a bamboo skewer or a knife and put it in the middle, and if it comes out clean, that means your cake is ready. Now let this cool. You don't want to cut it right away, and one thing I like to do is when my cake is cooling, I put a kitchen towel on top of it. I find it makes the cake even more moist, and all that steam that it releases is somehow absorbed back inside, and it does make a little bit of a difference. It's completely optional though. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Before cutting the cake, make sure that it has come fully to room temperature. Otherwise, when you cut it, it's gonna be very crumbly and it's not gonna hold its shape really well. And that's true for any cake, but can you see how soft this is? I should have let it cool down completely, but I did not, because my kids really wanted to have a slice. And can you see how super soft and moist this is? Now, I had some leftovers and I placed it in the fridge, and I really wanted to share this with you guys because it really shows how moist this cake is. It can stay super soft at room temperature for 2 to 3 days, and if you put it in an airtight box and put it in the fridge, it's good for a week at least. And this is after a week, and this is straight out of the fridge, and it's still very moist, as you can see. So that was all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this recipe. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you recreate this, do share it with me on my Instagram page, which is by the same name, the homemakerbaker_falakalik. I love seeing your recreations and your trials of my recipe. If you have any issues with it, inbox me. I always try to be as much help as I possibly can. So that was all for today. Until next time, the Homemaker Baker over and out.